I would move to Toronto. I love Toronto. Derek Pollock, are you also in Brookfield? That's where I am. Are we neighbors? Mark Schlesinger from Sonoma. I have fond memories of my days. You know, prior to barbecue, I was the wine critic for the Washington Post and the Chicago Tribune. Hey, it's 7:30. It's time to get this show on the road. Let's get the intro.
I need ribs to ease my day. I need to find time to cook them right. My papa said, can't hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. He said ribs.
And now, at your service, here to help you cook and eat like royalty is the barbecue whisperer and hedonism evangelist from AmazingRibs.com, the planet's biggest and baddest barbecue and grilling website, Meathead.
How's that cool intro, huh? That's my niece singing. What a voice. It's summer. I thought I'd kick us off today. Yeah, if you've been to these little fireside chats before, I usually take a note from the late night talk show guys and start off with a little bit of a monologue, just a few minutes on a topic that is seasonal or appropriate or just interests me. And it's summer. And man, my wife, she's a master gardener, and we're here in the Midwest where the soil is so black, if you were to spit on the ground, another human being would grow. And it's corn season and zucchini season and eggplant season. And she brought in the first cherry tomatoes tonight. So I thought I would start with a little corn talk, because golly, there's very little that is better tasting than fresh sweet corn. You know, I'm an old fart, and I remember when they used to tell you, get the water boiling before you go out and pick the corn. Well, there's all these new hybrids on the market now. My favorite is one called Mirai, and I don't know how widespread it is. There's a little farm in Michigan that brings it to the farmer's market in my town, and it is just so sweet and tender. And these new hybrids, the enzymes have been sort of dulled down, lulled into sleep, so that the sugar doesn't disappear as rapidly. 2 or 3 days in the fridge, and it's still as sweet as the day you picked it. And that's wonderful. I love that. And I love grilling corn. Now, this is a controversial topic. Every time I bring it up, I get hate mail from somebody who says, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Well, I have my favorite way of doing it, and you may have your favorite way of doing it, and I'm probably not going to convince you, but let me tell you how I like to do it. Now, I know a lot of people like to take the corn right in the husk and soak it in cold water until the husk absorbs a lot of the cold water, and then they throw it on the grill. And what happens is the husk steams the corn, and eventually the husk will dry out and catch on fire and burn, and it'll give it a little smoky flavor. But to me, it tastes a heck of a lot like just steamed corn or boiled corn or microwave corn. And I want that flavor from the grill, and so I remove the husk. Now, once you remove the husk, you don't want to put it on a high temperature. You can really scald it. You want it on a medium to medium high temperature, and if you do it right, you're going to get golden brown, occasionally a charred husk or two, but you don't want them hard. You don't want them burned. They just get really hard, and too high a heat will dehydrate them. So you just want to get them going. And what happens is it caramelizes the sugars and gives you a greater depth of flavor than you would get when you steam them or when you cook them in the husk. And I like to take it a step further. Now, I can do it just as I described, and that's fine with me. These new sweet corns, I'll tell you, I don't need butter and salt on them. I'll bring them in, and I just eat them naked. They are fantastic without anything on them. But there's a recipe on AmazingRibs.com that describes this process. I will often take a little olive oil, a little butter, and melt them in a saucepan with some fresh tarragon from my wife's garden. And if you leave it in there a little bit, the oils will extract some of the tarragon flavor. And tarragon and corn really work well together. Tarragon works really well with certain things. It works great with seafood, fish. It works great with eggs, and it works great with corn. And what I'll do is I'll put that corn on the grill, and then I'll brush this tarragon butter and oil on the corn and roll it around. Well, what happens is most of it drips off. Some of it goes down in between the kernels, but it leaves behind the tarragon extract flavor. And when you eat it, it's not greasy, it's not oily, and you get that little bit of tarragon flavor. That's really nice. That's my favorite way of doing corn on the grill. So if you haven't tried it that way, the technique is described in detail on AmazingRibs.com. Just go there. I don't know if you're aware, but back in April, we switched from a software program that ran the website called Drupal to WordPress. And our new search features are much better. You can search the site and you can get what you're looking for, usually on the first attempt. Much better search features, much better menus. Navigation on the site is vastly improved. So go there and look for sweet corn or just corn and check out that recipe. It's really good. Another recipe that we love doing in the summertime is eggplant parmesan. And this too is on the website, the recipe and a video. But the short version is I'll take those Roma tomatoes. Those are the ones that are kind of egg-shaped, and they're meatier than they are juicier. And you got to clean your grill grates really clean if you're cooking vegetables or fruit. And I'll put those tomatoes on the grill and char them slightly. Get a little bit of brown on them. Get a little char flavor. Roll them over, get the skin charred enough so that it pops right off. And then I'll take those tomatoes and throw them in a blender with some oregano and some thyme, either fresh or dried, either one works. A little bit pinch of salt, maybe some black pepper. And basically I'll make a grilled or a fire roasted tomato sauce. Okay? Fire roasted tomato sauce. Whip it around. If you want, you can put it back in a pan and cook it down and make it thicker. Then I'll take the eggplants and I'll cut them thick, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick, and lightly paint them with oil. You know, when you make eggplant parmesan indoors, you fry it, and when you fry it, the eggplant is like a sponge. It just soaks up the oil. This technique here, you're just using a little bit of oil to keep it from sticking, and it gets very soft. Oh, here's a trick. If you're grilling eggplant, you're slicing it. The skin is really tough, and if you bite into it, like I made some eggplant sandwiches the other night, you bite into it, and the whole skin, you pull the skin, and the whole thing comes out of the bread. Take your eggplant and stripe it. So you get a potato peeler, and you just cut a stripe of the skin off. Rotate, cut a stripe. So you've got bare, then skin, then bare, then skin. Skin has flavor. It's nice, and it's got nutrition. But what you got to do is you've got to get a break there. So when you bite in, you don't pull the whole loop of skin and pull the whole eggplant off with it. So you make stripes. And I got pictures of this on AmazingRibs.com. And so I'll grill that eggplant, and then I'll put this fire-roasted tomato sauce on top. And then you can put some mozzarella or some Parmigiano Reggiano or both on top. Close the lid, melt the cheese, and now you've got eggplant Parmesan, but much less fat, much fewer calories, and a lot more flavor. It's really good this way. And it can be very pretty. You get these nice little discs with tomato sauce and then the cheese on top, and you can put 1 or 2 per plate when you serve it. Really pretty. Something else we like to do this time of year is I make pizzucchini, zucchinis. Man, my wife just came in today and she was beating herself up. At this time of year, if you don't check the zucchini plants every day, you're going to regret it. She didn't check yesterday, and it rained overnight, and we had a hot day. Went out there, and sure enough, there's 2 baseball bats. You had these little 6-inch zucchinis yesterday, and today they're baseball bats. Garrison Keillor used to say, you just, midnight, you leave one on your neighbor's doorstep and run. But these big, fat baseball bats, they're not bad. A lot of people think that the best zucchinis are the little guys, and that's true. They're more tender. They're, the 6 to 8 inches. The big ones, the center section gets kind of pulpy. It's soft and mushy. It's not very juicy, and there's a lot of big seeds in there. So what we'll do is we'll cut the thing lengthwise in half, and then I'll scoop out the center. So I'm leaving nothing but the tender, juicy, meaty outsides. And basically I've made 2 big canoes. Okay? Then I paint it lightly with some oil, throw it on the grill, cook both sides until when you pick them up with your tongue, it's kind of limp. Takes maybe 20, 30 minutes to get a thick, big baseball bat to kind of flex like that. And then you bring it in and you stuff it with whatever you would put in a pizza. Ground meat, sausage, tomato sauce. Another trick is you get a knife and you kind of score the inside so that there's like little cracks in the tomato sauce and stuff, and get cheeses, whatever you want. I've got some ingredients, and I think it's on the website. I don't recall. Pizzucchini. If not, you don't need a recipe. You just improvise. Kids love it. I mean, talk about a way to get kids to eat their vegetables. It's a pizza. Instead of on a bread shell, it's on a zucchini shell. And it's marvelous, and it tastes great. It tastes just like a pizza. And you could go Asian that flavor way if you want. All kinds of fun things you can do with it. Here's another fun tip for this time of year. First tomatoes of the season came in today. My wife brought in cherry tomatoes, and oh, God, they're good. What I love to do when those cherry tomatoes are really pumping, there's far more than we can eat. And she's down to, she used to plant 5 or 6 plants. Now we're down to 2, and it's still more than we can eat. You take those little cherry tomatoes and you stab them with a sharp knife. 2 or 3 stabs per tomato.
I couldn't hear what you said.
My watch, Siri, is having trouble hearing me. She talks to me without me talking to her. And you stab them a few times, and then you throw them on the smoker. If you've got a smoker. If not, you can turn your grill into a smoker. If you don't know how, I have instructions on AmazingRibs.com. But you smoke these little cherry tomatoes until they turn into raisins. And they'll shrink. They'll be a little bigger than a normal raisin. But when you think about it, they're not much different than the size of a grape. And you take them down until they're tender and soft. You don't want to cook them too high a temp. Keep the temperature low, down around 200. You don't want to cook them. You want to dehydrate them. And if you've got a dehydrator, that works too. But I like to do it in the smoker because the smoke flavor really amps this thing up. And so you've got smoked tomato raisins. And they are absolutely awesome. Some of the best thing you can do with a smoker. Throw them on a salad, in a focaccia. Anything you might do with a raisin, a grape raisin, you can do with a cherry tomato raisin, and because they're dehydrated, the flavor is really intense. It's like sun-dried tomatoes. They're really concentrated. They're just utterly fantastic. So this is a really good time of the year to be playing around with grilling vegetables, cooking vegetables. My friend Stephen Reichlin, who is a cookbook author extraordinaire, has a new cookbook out on grilling vegetables. You might want to check that out. And then, of course, AmazingRibs.com and my book, there it is over my shoulder, Meathead. I've got some recipes there and more to come. So there's just a bunch of fun things you can do. So let's see what you guys are saying. If you've got some favorite things you like to grill, vegetables, or want to argue with me about corn, let me scroll through the comments and the questions and see what we hear from you guys. Okay. I was joking earlier to Jordan Trott from Bermuda about how we drove our little motor scooters off a cliff, and she says, road rash is a tourist rite of passage in Bermuda. Yeah, it's a great story. All right, I'm going to tell you the short version of the story. Way off topic of barbecue, but I love telling stories, and if you get bored, just take off. But wife and I take a cruise, and I'm a speaker on the cruise. In those days, I was the wine critic for the Washington Post and the Chicago Tribune. I was a wino before I became a barbecue guy. And I was the speaker. I was doing wine tastings, and we got to Bermuda and rented these little mopeds, motorcycles, and driving around the island, going to the beaches, eating out, having Bermuda onion soup. Fantastic. It's a beautiful island. And we're on our way home. We got to return the motor scooters and get back on board ship. And we're climbing up a hill, and my wife is in front of me, and all of a sudden her bike runs out of gas. And I guess because she's on a hill, the gas is and so she pulls over onto the shoulder, and the shoulder is black, rich soil, and it's only about 3 feet wide, and it's soft, and it gives way, and she goes off a 30-foot cliff into a Bermuda onion field. Well, I don't know where she's gone. I just see her go disappear. And of course, what do? My wife has just gone off the cliff. So I pull onto the shoulder. And guess what happens? I go over the cliff right behind her, land almost on top of her. The two of us, 20, 30-foot drop. We're laying in thank God the soil is so tender and soft there. We're laying there. Our knees are all road rash, as she calls it. We're all banged up and bloody. There's a guy following behind us, a local in a VW bus, and he sees us go. And he pulls over. Thank goodness he doesn't pull over on the shoulder. And he yells down, "Are you guys okay?" "Yeah." And he says, "Stay where you're at. I'm going to come get you." So he goes down the hill and around into the Bermuda onion field, drives right into the onion field, and opens up, and we're going to load in the bikes. And he says, "Just leave them here. You come back for them tomorrow. The company rented them to you. They'll bring a pickup truck. Let's get you guys in the car and back to the hospital to get your tetanus shots." And so we load up, and he's stuck in the soft dirt. We can't move. And he doesn't know how to get out. Well, we're northerners. We know how to drive in snow. So we put my wife behind the wheel, and she knows how you rock. You go forward, you stop. You go forward, you stop. And he and I are in the back pushing, and we're starting to make progress. Whoa, wow, look at that. My camera just went berserk. Come back to me, baby. Hey. So, doesn't like me telling stories. My wife's driving, and he and I are pushing, and we're making progress. We're about to get out of the onion field, and all of a sudden she slams on the brakes. We're covered in mud. We're splat into the back of the VW bus, and I go running around front. I'm going to kill her. And there she is, humped over the wheel, laughing her ass off, and in front of the VW bus, there's a mule. He's just standing there looking in the window. "What the heck are you guys doing in my field?" So what do? We hooked him up, and he towed us out of there. True story, my Bermuda onion story. Oh dear. Okay, so much. We're into 15, 20 minutes, and we haven't talked much about barbecue. Let's get some questions from the audience here. All right. Brian Scott Shank is trying to start something with the grilled pineapple controversy. I just love grilled fruit too. This is fruit season. I tell you, I hate to say it. If we've got folks in the audience here from South Carolina or Georgia, the best peaches I've ever had in my life come from cool climate. In a hot, sunny day, the sugar goes up, and then at night, when it's cool, the acid is preserved. It doesn't burn off. Just like with grapes. The best grapes are grown in cool climates. Michigan peaches are just awesome. And grilled peaches are fantastic with a scoop of ice cream. Got a recipe on AmazingRibs.com with a scoop of ice cream and a rum and butter sauce. Oh, yeah. Okay. Jean-Marc Demare, who is a regular with us every month. Thank you for coming back, John Mark. And he's got sounds like a really good suggestion. Spike your butter for corn grilling with a Mexican variant. Add lemon zest, chili powder, and salt. Okay, this is sounding good. Indian variant, soft or hot curry paste. Oh, now we're talking. Salt and pepper. Italian variant, lemon zest, finely chopped basil and garlic. I like, Jean-Marc, you can cook for me anytime. I like those ideas. Yeah, the whole idea is you get your corn on the grill and then you paint it. I mean, it's a lot like what they do with Mexican corn. They put a cheese on it. But most of these oils, they'll drip off while it's cooking. So you're not getting a really greasy corn, but the flavors get into the kernels, the gaps, and they're fantastic. I was talking about tarragon, and Nathan Wallace saying, quail baked on a bed of tarragon leaves with olive oil and salt is divine. Yeah, those little dead birds, man. They cook fast. I have had good luck. I learned a technique in Bordeaux when I was in the wine world where they will grill over grapevine cuttings. You know, they have to go out every year and prune the grapevines, and they just pile them up. And they'll bring them in and stick them in the fireplace and light them. And boy, they get really hot. In fact, go to AmazingRibs.com and look up my flank steak recipe. And I'll show you. I do it in a Weber kettle. I take grapevine cuttings, pile them in there, light them from below, fill it up as high as I can, light them from below. There's like this 8-foot flame. And then they immediately drop down to glowing hot embers, about 1,000 degrees. And you put your flank steak, because you don't want a thick steak. You want something thin like flank steak. And grill it really quick over these hot embers. Fantastic flavor, and it's a really great technique for quail also. He's doing on tarragon with olive oil. That sounds good. Possibly a combo of the two methods. Use the grapevines for the heat, and then lay the tarragon, a bed of tarragon. If you've got a garden, you can grow tarragon. It grows. You just get a bunch of it, just lay it on the grill, and then you can lay your fish or your quail or whatever on top of it. It's a good technique. Okay, Mike Hahn has posted the link to the eggplant parm. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Narcio Nick, too. He's got a pizzucchini-sized zucchini. Yeah, they're great. Yeah, Brian, we got Q&A today. Here it is. As I said, Brian, I almost always start with a monologue, and then we go into Q&A. Yeah, Mark Schlesinger makes a point. Boiling corn keeps it tender, but grilling results in being very starchy. Any advice? I don't find it starchy. It makes it tougher. The same thing is true with lobster, for example. Boiling lobster makes it very tender, but boiling it extracts a lot of flavor. Water is a solvent, so you get a milky water bath. It makes it more tender, but it takes out flavor. Boiling corn, the same thing. It makes it more tender to boil it, so you will get more tender. But if you grill it, I don't find it more starchy. I find it actually sweeter because the sugar is caramelized, but it's tougher. It's chewier. And it's a trade-off. If you really want that rich sweetness and the complexity of the caramelized sugars, grill it. If you want it really tender and juicy, steam it or simmer it. Tim Marquardt just says one word: beets. I hate beets. I'll eat anything. I've actually learned over the years to love Brussels sprouts. I hated them as a boy. Not fond of lima beans and beets. Those are two I can. Hey, Steve Crass. Steve Crass is my local barbecue supplier. He works at a garden store called Wanamaker's, and I think it's in Downers Grove. It's just a little west of me in Illinois, and they have a great barbecue department there. Small, but it's packed to the gills with great stuff. And Steve is also a supporter of Operation Barbecue Relief, and I visit with him frequently. Grilled pineapple, Brian. You slice it. You can cut out that little hard core if you want, and just slice it, maybe a half inch to 3/4 inch thick. Make sure the grill grates are really clean, and just grill it until you get dark grill marks, or maybe even a little char. And it just amplifies the sugar, caramelizes the sugar, and it works really well with pork. Do some pork chops, maybe with a mustard sauce, and then grilled pineapple on the side, or lay it on top of the pork chop, or with a pork loin roast or something like that. Pineapple and pork are like peanut butter and jelly. They work great together. I absolutely adore it. In fact, go to AmazingRibs.com. There's a recipe for sweet and sour pork, just like you would get in a Chinese restaurant, only it's grilled rather than fried, and it has grilled pineapple in it. It's a really fun recipe. Kids love it in particular because the grilled pineapple gets really sweet, but it's got grilled bell pepper, it's got grilled pork tenderloin, grilled pineapple. Mike Hahn's been grilling fruits like pineapple and peaches. They really grill up nicely, and you get that extra flavor from the grill. Jim Chester says he's been doing veggies on his griddle. Yeah, that's a great technique. I don't know about corn on the griddle, but sure, why not? I think I'd rather give it exposure to flame. Yeah, Nick Piston is asking what my favorite wine is. Whatever's in my glass. I'm drinking something that's a little odd tonight. I'm drinking a Torrontés from Argentina. It's a grape variety that is not well known. It's called Colombe. It's got an odd, an interesting flavor. Geez, I almost broke a water glass. Trevor Olin is recommending Palisade peaches from Colorado. I don't know that brand, but I look for what they call Freestone peaches. You got cling peaches and Freestone. I mean, there are many different varieties, but you can divide them in those two categories. Cling peaches, when you get down to the pit, there's just a lot of the fruit stuck to the pit. Freestone peaches, if you slice them, or the pit pops free and it's clean. Jason Pettis is onto something here. I've had succotash cooked in the smoker underneath the chicken to catch the drippings. Gotta say that was pretty good and kind of counts as vegetables. Yeah, I do that with chicken rotisserie. It's in the book, not on the website. I'll take a chicken, put it on the rotisserie, and get a pan, just a regular 9x13 baking pan, put it under the chicken, put a thin layer of oil, maybe an 1/8 to a 1/16 of an inch of oil in there, and then a 1/4 inch or so of water. And then I'll chop up some Brussels sprouts, some potatoes, some carrots, root vegetables, whatever you want, throw them in there. Try to get them all about the same size and thickness so they cook evenly. And then fire up your rotisserie, and what happens is they sort of simmer and steam, so they cook with the water, but the water cooks off, and the next thing you know, they start to fry in the oil, and the chicken drippings get onto the vegetables. So you want to keep an eye on it. You got to get in there and stir them up and make sure they don't burn, and if they start to burn, you just add a little more water. But if you time it right, you can get the water out of there, crisp them up a little bit. And you've had those fried Brussels sprouts in the restaurants they're all chic now. They're marvelous. These chicken drippings, fried, I don't know what you would call them, the vegetables, they're fantastic that way. Mike Hahn. Well, my little subtle advertising caught his eye. You may have noticed over my shoulder there are some herbs and spices, and Mike is asking when and where can he buy them. These are the new coming in September. Maybe a few will be out in August. They were supposed to be out in May, but we won't get into that. But these are Meathead's amazing smoked pork rub, and it's a lot like the Memphis dust with a few interesting twists. Among them, we have smoked all the ingredients. So if you're stuck indoors in winter, you can still get that outdoor flavor. And I threw a few extra fun things in there. It's pretty darn good, actually. If you've had my Memphis dust recipe, that you'll like that, I guarantee it. And then Meathead's amazing Tuscan herb poultry, which is a lot like Simon and Garfunkel, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. But again, we've varied it somewhat because I can't put exactly the same things in there. This is the killer, though, the red meat rub. If you have followed me at all, you know that when it comes to steak, I am a salt and pepper guy. And just stay away from me with the fancy red wine sauces. And I know how to make a red wine sauce. Stay away from me with the béarnaise. Stay away from me with all the herbs and spices. I've judged competitions where they dump every spice in the cabinet on their steaks. Hate it. This stuff is amazing. My wife won't let me cook a steak without it anymore. They should be available in the next 30 days. There'll be a page on AmazingRibs.com, AmazingRibs.com/flavor. And I'll link to the manufacturer who will be selling them. I'm not going to sell them directly. I just don't want to be in the retail business. We'll refer you to people who do. We'll eventually have them on Amazon. There's a number of websites that sell. I think Big Papa Smokers will carry them and a few others. We'll have links to places you can order them. And there's a sauce coming. The sauce is in production. I'm very pleased with it. It's a classic Kansas City red sauce with a secret ingredient. So, watch for those soon, I hope. Yes, Brian is just confessed he's teasing me on behalf of Greg Rempe. It says Greg Rempe runs a broadcast, a podcast, every Tuesday, and I'm a guest once a month on it. And he once asked me what my favorite thing to grill was, and I said pineapple. And he's just never let me forget it. Meathead, his favorite thing is pineapple. And he started in on me today on Twitter about the pineapple stuff. But I just love that. I got a sweet tooth. Yeah, Narcio Nick is asking about peaches. I mentioned earlier there's a really good grilled peach recipe with vanilla ice cream and a rum butter sauce. And it could be a bourbon butter sauce on AmazingRibs.com. It's really good. My wife invented it. Watermelon steaks with a drizzle of rum at the end and some fresh cheese crumbles. You know, I tried watermelon steaks and did not like them one bit. I only tried it once. I got to try it again. Clint Cantwell, who works for us, did post a recipe on AmazingRibs.com on a technique for doing grilled watermelon steaks, and it looks wonderful. I'm going to have to give it a try. I just never got it. I'll give it a try again. I could see, some feta cheese crumbles on there, maybe. Yeah, I'll give it a try. I love watermelon. And the other thing I want to do is I want to pickle watermelon rinds. I've never done that. I love pickled watermelon rinds. If I see them on the shelf of the grocery, I'll grab them. Sweet sour pickled watermelon rinds. Oh my God. And today I was walking through the neighborhood, and I walked under a crabapple tree and got these gorgeous crab apples. They're the size of giant olives. And I picked a bunch, and I'm going to go out tomorrow and pick some more, and I'm going to try pickling those. See how that works. Steve Krass from Wanamaker says he's going to carry them, the rubs, and so I don't know if they've got. I don't think they sell on a website though. Sammy Shuford, I haven't seen you in a long time, Sammy. You and I go way back. He says Memphis Dust is his go-to. Thank you, Sammy. Sweet potato burn ends. Okay, he's claiming he invented it. Jason Pettis says he invented sweet potato. Yeah, sweet potatoes aren't bad when you burn them. Yeah, I like to take a sweet potato and cut wedges out of them, and then the wedges taper, and I'll sprinkle them with Memphis Dust. And first I'll give them a little bit of oil to help them brown, and then I'll hit them with the Memphis Dust because there's a little sugar in Memphis Dust. And Memphis Dust got a lot of good stuff that goes with sweet potatoes, and so does this blend. And he's right. The edges get a little crispy. I've never thought of them as burnt ends, but yeah, they really caramelize. They're really good. Derek Pollock's asking how you are from Brookfield. Can you get the rubs at Tischler's? Tischler's is Ralph's Pretty Good Grocer. If you ever listen to Garrison Keeler, a little grocery store in my neighborhood. Derek, you are my neighbor. I actually talked with Tischler recently. I was at the grand opening of our library. I saw him there, and he wants to do something with me and with the rubs and sauces. So yeah, I'm hopeful that they will be. Oh yeah, okay. Jose Pablo Falas. Mangoes work well. Make a great pico de gallo. Yeah, pico de gallo. Usually it's a salsa. It's chopped tomatoes. It's got some jalapenos. I mean, it's freestyle. You can put, and I like the idea of mango in there. My brother-in-law has mango trees in his yard, and then he goes out midnight skulking. He's in Pompano Beach, and he goes out at midnight and picks mangoes from from his neighbors. Grilled pineapple with bacon. I'll bet that. I haven't done that, but I'll bet that's good. Well, of course, what are we talking about? Anything with bacon and anything with pineapple. I'm not seeing a lot of questions. I got a lot of suggestions, which is great. Finish those sweet potatoes with Steen's Pure Cane Syrup Glaze. Yeah, Steen's out of New Orleans makes a cane syrup. It's sort of like a simple syrup. But it's made from, I think it's made from sugar cane. Yeah, it is sugar cane, of course, it's cane syrup. And it's good. And they have one that's kind of a golden. It's kind of like a mild molasses. I'll show you. I'll bet you don't. I'm going to be right back. No jokes about my gym shorts. At least I'm wearing pants, huh? Okay. Camera. Stay with me, buddy. This, some of you may know it if you've spent any time in England. This is also a cane syrup. Lyle's Golden Syrup. You can get it on Amazon or any place that sells English products. This stuff is awesome. It tastes like butterscotch. Let's see if you can see the color. It's just as glowing amber color, and it's just on an English muffin with a little butter. I dated a girl in college who was from England, and she introduced me to this stuff, and this is just fantastic. And it's like Steen's, only I like it better than Steen's. So if you're into Steen's and a little heavy cream in his coffee as a sweetener, I bet that's good. So you might want to check this out. I don't think it's terribly expensive. Lyle's Golden Syrup. Fantastic stuff. Okay. And Jason Pettis is suggesting put that Steen's on the sweet potatoes. Yeah, although that could be a bit redundant, don't you think? I mean, the sweet potatoes are sweet enough on their own. But sure, why not? I've got a sweet tooth. Mark Schlesinger, ABTs, yeah, atomic buffalo turds. Yeah, now we're talking. Okay, there's a That's a vegetable. Atomic buffalo turds. They're jalapenos. And you can stuff them with chorizo. You can stuff them with just about anything. And then wrap them with bacon. Or mix them with cheese and stuff them and wrap them with bacon. All kinds of fun stuff. ABTs. Okay, now Alan Steinkuhl is saying, best corn ever is sous vide, 180 degrees for 30 minutes. Butter and cilantro in the bag. That sounds okay. I'm into the sous vide thing. I don't know if I've got 30 minutes to wait for my corn, though. But sure, why not? I'll have to try that. See, Nathan Wall and I are on the same. He didn't know I was going for the Lyles, but he popped in with recommending Lyles. He uses a lot in home brewing for milds and pale ales. Ooh, that's kind of expensive, but why not? Why not? Mike Hahn has provided the link to Lyle's Golden on Amazon. Jim Cheshire's sous vide asparagus, 185 for 15 minutes with butter and salt. Asparagus is kind of running late in the season, though, I think. There may still be some in the stores. It's usually like the first robin in spring. When I see asparagus in the store, my heart starts to quicken. Nathan says he typed it just before I said it. Yeah, we're vibrating on the same wavelength. Somebody once said, great minds meet outside the body. I'm not getting a lot of questions. I'm happy to try to answer your questions. I don't always get it right, but if you got a question about a grill or a smoker or a recipe or a problem you're having, no marital questions. I can't answer those. I'm not. But actually, I do. I have a piece of marital advice. My wife and I are coming up on our 46th anniversary next month. And the secret, people often ask me, what's my secret? And the secret is, now, everybody out there, repeat after me. Yes, dear. You were right. I was wrong. That's it. That's how you get 46 years. Nathan says that Lyle's has a nutty flavor. I find it almost butterscotchy. Yep, Sammy Shuford's talking about doing a reverse sear steak. He's fond of that. What's the latest on the smoke fire? I don't know. The smoke fire is Weber's pellet grill. I think I have heard that they've made some modifications. I haven't talked to Max. Max Good is our grill tester. Let's just pull up AmazingRibs.com and search for. I'm telling you, this new search works so beautifully. Smoke fire. There it is, first hit. Now let's take a quick look at this and see if Max has added anything about, because it's a really clever concept, and they broke through a bunch of problems that other pellet smokers have. Among them, you can actually really sear a steak on it. Most pellet smokers you can't. Most pellet smokers are just like your indoor oven. You can't sear a steak in your indoor oven. But they've figured out how with a lot of heat, infrared, but they had some technical problems. There were grease fires and uneven heating. I'm just very quickly scrolling through Max's review, and it's a lengthy one. Max does really great detailed reviews. Part of the problem is ash was collecting in the bottom and clogging the drain holes, so that grease would pile up and would catch on fire. When the thing first came out, people were just dissing this thing. All you got to do is keep the drain holes clear. But you shouldn't have to. They should clear themselves. There's also some issues with the pellets not sliding properly, and some software issues. We know that they've, Weber announced last week, I think, they're going public. Weber and Traeger both announced Both companies are going public, which means, for those of you who are not investors, they are offering their stock to the public. They are privately held companies right now, but they're going to offer their stock to the public, and I don't see much new there. So I don't know if there have been changes made, folks, to that smoke fire. What you can do, who's asking? Gary Hammond. Go to AmazingRibs.com, type smoke fire in the search box, and at the bottom of the page where there's Q&A, type the question. What's going on? Have they made modifications? I think I've heard that they made a couple of improvements, but I think they took the position that there was really nothing wrong with it, which is not true. But what was wrong with it wasn't really the end of the world. Some people were screaming it was. And maybe, I don't know if version 2 is out yet or not, but they need to fix them. We tend to give Weber products pretty high rankings. They're generally really well built, but our top award is a platinum medal, followed by a gold medal. The Smokefire got a silver medal with a caution, alerting people to the problems. Max is testing another product from them, a smart grill. You know, Weber is transitioning from a company that builds things out of steel to a software company. We're starting with the Smokefire, and they bought a thermometer company, and they're trying to make everything smart and app-driven and digital timing and control. And I don't know, I mean, this is a company that's made a lot of money and been very successful and earned a great reputation for customer service by making things out of steel. And to transition to a software company, I mean, this is the digital age. You know how software, a lot of times it just doesn't work in version 1.0. And that's, I think, what Weber is facing. Max is testing a new grill from them. It hasn't been released yet, and I'm not going to mention the name yet until Max says it's ready. But he's having a dickens of a time with the software and the temperature control. And he's probably going to give it a do not buy. And we've never done that to a Weber product, which means they probably won't talk to us ever again, especially while they're getting ready to go public and we're giving their new product a do not buy. I better fix it. Cool J77. Our recommendation got him to buy a BBQ. What an amazing concoction. Best hidden secret in the barbecue world. Yeah, BBQ, if you could afford it. I forget what it costs now. Maybe $2,000 or something. It is the smartest design for a smoker on the market. Just really clever design. It has only one drawback, and that is when you start those ribs, which can take 4, 5, 6 hours, you might as well pull up a chair and a book and a drink, because you have to keep feeding it logs. You cannot walk away for more than 20 minutes. But if you do that, it is just amazing. It burns small sections of logs. And the key is the logs are on top. Now, most log burners, or stick burners as they call them, the logs go in on the side, slightly below the cooking area, so the smoke rises and moves across the food. Here, it's above the food, and there's a fan that pulls the smoke down. So as the logs burn, the embers fall into a pan below the logs. So you've got logs burning and glowing embers, and the smoke is pulled through the flame, through the embers, into the smoker. And in the process, all of the impurities that can give food a funky flavor are burned off. You get incredibly good, beautiful, clean blue smoke, and the food that comes out the other end is just gorgeous. It's a brilliant smoker. They're not cheap, and they do require babysitting when you're cooking. And we've talked to him, can you please make it so there's an automatic feeder or something? And he says it doesn't think he can. So if you're in the market for a great smoker, take a look at the Karubecue, K-A-R-U-B-E-C-U-E. No, C-U-E. K-A-R-U-B-E-C-U-E, Karubecue. We have a detailed review. I've got one in my garage, and it is just an amazing tool. Fantastic. Cannot recommend it highly enough. So Cool J77's got one, and he loves it too. Yeah, Mike Hahn says the Generation 2 Weber Genesis 2. The Genesis 2. Yeah, the first not the first Genesis. A couple of years ago, the Weber Genesis was redone, and I tested it and gave it a mediocre score also. And they replaced it recently with an upgrade, and it's a much better model. Max gave it a pretty high score. And thank you, Mike Hahn. He has provided a link for you guys on the Smokefire. But it's easy to find. Narcio Nick, too. Narcio, no, I'm not going to make jokes about that. I quite often do your homemade cured smoked bacon. Yeah, that bacon recipe, there's a basic bacon recipe, and then there's variations on it, and it's really good. He likes it better at a lower temperature, 135 rather than 150. Well, no, not at 135. You're safe. You're good. You're good. Dark Hunter. Any secrets on reheating ribs? Yeah, it's always tricky. Reheating food is called leftovers, but you can. In general, microwave is a really good way to reheat food. You use it for Chinese carryout. It works pretty good for ribs. The thing is you don't want to take a long time in reheating something because that just dehydrates it. If you throw it back on the grill, it's going to dry it out and it's going to burn the sauce, and so you want to heat it quickly. So I will often do it on the microwave, but sous vide, if you have one, is a great way to reheat things. It takes a little longer, but it's much more gentle. The key here is to be gentle. And there are other tricks like pulled pork is easily reheated in a crock pot. You throw a little apple juice or sauce in there with it. Oh, thank you, Daniel. Daniel Lavoie says he tried the chicken recipe and the Simon and Garfunkel rub, and it was the best chicken he ever made. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a good recipe. It's a good rub, and it's very similar to the one that we're going to be releasing on the market. Cool J77 is asking, how long can you walk away from an offset smoker? I think you can walk away from it for 30 minutes, maybe even an hour, because you've got a lot more logs in there, and you can throw a couple of extras in there, and the temp may run up, but it's not a big deal, and you can walk away for 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, and nothing awful is going to happen. The thing about the Karubecue is it's just got a very small little carrier for the logs. It won't hold more than like 3, and so you just gotta stay there. Jim Cheshire is concerned about the quality of the Masterbuilt. Are you talking about the gravity feed Masterbuilt? We were the first to review it, I think, and we gave it a pretty thorough review, and we had some concerns too. It's a very good concept. It's pretty well executed, but there are some problems. Go look at our review. They say they're going to make some changes, but I don't know where we're at with that. But I think we're going to see imitators. I think the idea of a gravity feed charcoal, where it feeds the charcoal by gravity, it's the same concept as pellet smokers. So I think we'll see more of those coming down the pike. Yeah, Jim Cheshire is saying sous vide circulators, excellent for reheating. I agree. Jean Bonan is saying that he did some modifications to his Masterbuilt, and the controller is his concern longer term. I don't think the controller was our big concern, but I forget. Getting to be an old man, I can't remember all the details. I think Husky, who did the review on that, and did a pretty thorough one. Mike Hahn, is it worth the time and effort to make your own hot dogs? I don't think so. I mean, hot dogs are really cheap, and some of them are just really good. We just had hot dogs for dinner the other night. It was dog training night, and we needed to grab a quick meal, and golly, I just love a hot dog. And I went to a minor league ball game on Sunday, and I don't know if you know this, but my wife and I train puppies for leader dogs for the blind, and the local group of puppy trainers met at the Schaumburg. I forget the Boomers, the Schaumburg Boomers. Yeah, right. They should have let me in for free because I'm a boomer. The Schaumburg Boomers minor league game had a ball, and I had a couple of hot dogs there too. I just love them, and they're so cheap, and they're so easy to But it makes a lot of sense to make your own Italian sausage, because now you can tweak it to your own flavor, or chorizo or things like that. Jim Tortorelli. Hey, Jim, I'm married to a Tortorello. Probably related. Turtle dove. Advice for barbecued pulled chicken. It's usually still pretty well connected when done. Yeah. To pulled pork, you've got to cook it way past well done, up to 190, 200, 205 degrees, in that range, and then it just falls apart. I think if you cook chicken up that high, it's going to dry out pretty badly because there's not a lot of fat in there. So I don't think I would cook it much beyond 160, which is when it's most tender and juicy. You can shred it at that temperature, but it's not easy. It's and I don't know. I think I've had I've cooked pulled chicken. I prefer pulled pork. For me, I've tried chicken every which way known to man, and for me, I just like it grilled or rotisseried or spatchcocked with an herb rub. That's why our rub here is it's green, if you can see. It's full of herbs. Pulling it and burying it under sweet red barbecue sauce is just not my favorite way to go, personally. Any recommendations for a masonry smoker? Where can I get my hands on good plans? When you say masonry, are you talking about like bricks, concrete block? What kind of material are you thinking about? I mean, there's a number of ceramic devices, the Big Green Egg and others. If you want to build one out of bricks, actually, I think, yes, we do have a page on our website with links to build your own, and I'm pretty sure there is a link or two to the old-fashioned ones that people used to build in their backyard, and I think there may be a links to some plans there. I think, this is one of those things, if you start Googling around, you'll find something. Jason Pettis, not sure if his beef navel question was answered. No, I didn't. I don't know what the question was. Beef navel is often used to make pastrami, And I've tried it, and I don't like it. It's just too gnarly. It's just too much gristle and inedible stuff, and it's just not a really good piece of meat. I'm not fond of it. You can make really good pastrami from brisket, from flank steak, goose, duck, but I'm not a fan of beef navel for pastrami. KB Bundles. What are my thoughts on the new 1-second Thermopens? Got one. Thermopen, for those of you who are not familiar, ThermoWorks is a thermometer company, and they make a range of really high-quality thermometers. They make probably the best all-round line of thermometers out there, and Thermopen has always been the top of the line for them. It's about $100. And the current model is called the Thermopen MK4. Excuse me, it was the current model until about 2 weeks ago when they came out with the Thermopen 1. And it's called that because it takes 1 second for it to give you an accurate reading. And we have an electrical engineer who tests thermometers for us. We bought him special gadgets that measure how long does it take to get the temperature right, and is it accurate, and he's already tested it and given it top marks. I have one, and I've been playing with it, and it's amazing. I mean, you stick it in a steak or a piece of chicken or something, and it gives you a reading absolutely instantly. It looks exactly like the other Thermopens. It's a little heavier. It uses a AA battery or a AAA battery, I forget which is nice. It's easier to swap out the battery. It doesn't take any kind of a special battery. It's got a couple other nice features. The screen is a little brighter, and it rotates as you turn it, so if you're left-handed, you can see it as well as if you're right-handed. But it's, I think it's $105 or $110. They used to be like $97 or $100, but it's now it broke the $100 mark. But if you want instant read and precision read, nothing beats it. Oh, thank you, Jim. Jim Cheshire is saying that everybody here needs to get the Sous Vide Q ebook. Life-changing. Wow, goodness gracious. We published a ebook for $3.99. It's a Kindle book. You can download it. Just go to Kindle. Actually, here's the short URL. Maybe on this Chiron, but it's tinyurl.com/sous-vide-q, all one word. And that'll take you right to it on Amazon for $3.99. If you're a member of our Pitmaster Club, you'll be able to get it for free in the Pitmaster Club as a flip book. And something that's about to happen interesting, when you buy one of these rubs, it says at the bottom, hard to see. Let me turn this light off, it's glaring. There we go. Can you see at the bottom? Whoops, come on. Free cookbook. If you scan the QR code after you buy this, you'll be able to download some of the ebooks we've produced. And that's one of them. And I'm putting the finishing touches on the turkey one right now, and we have a steak one. So we'll have 5 ebooks: ribs, chicken, sous vide Q, turkey, and steak. They're all $3.99 on Amazon. They're all free to members of the Pitmaster Club, and if you buy the sauce and rub for a while, for a limited time, you'll be able to get one for free too. So there you go. Sammy Shuford says his most important tool is a Thermopen. Yeah, I have often been asked what is the most important tool for a barbecue cook, and my answer is a good thermometer. They want me to say sharp knives, but I think a thermometer is the secret. Okay, so Jason wasn't asking an idle question about navel. He has a 13-pound navel. Okay. Try pastrami. Go to AmazingRibs.com and get my pastrami recipe, and it's a multi-step. It's a project, but when you're done, it's fantastic. The problem you'll encounter, I fear, unless your piece of navel is especially good, is that when you cut it, you're going to get veins of inedible gristle. But what is edible, the meat that's there, is going to be fantastic. And it is my belief that the first pastrami was made from navel, because it's just, a worthless cut. And so they had to figure out how to make it work. But pastrami, in my book, if you're going to do it with brisket, I like it better than Texas brisket. I think pastrami is the ultimate expression of brisket. Oh, now he says, other than pastrami. Oh, dear. Well, you can try grinding it. I don't know what kind of grinder you have, but there's a pretty high fat ratio, so it'll probably make you pretty good burgers. But the problem with grinding is that a lot of these connective tissues, this gristle and stuff, just doesn't grind. So you're going to be yanking it out of your grinder, which is okay. Get rid of it. Grind what's left. Maybe you can trim it up and get rid of the gristle and grind. It's probably going to make a good 70-30 blend, which is my favorite blend for burgers. You'd probably make a pretty darn good burger out of it. That's the best I can think of right now. I will, Cool J77 again, I'll venture into cooking pork steaks. Yeah, either smoking in the BBQ or slow cooking on the Weber Smoky Mountain without a heat baffle. Any suggestions? I think you got it. I think pork loves smoke. Depending on how thick they are, I would cut them thick. And, are you making them from the pork loin, where they're usually called pork chops, but it's pretty much the same thing, or from the shoulder, which is a little more fatty and gristly, but really juicy, and they make great pork steaks. I wouldn't hesitate to smoke them, either way, on the BBQ or the Weber Smoky Mountain. If you got them both, try them both and see which one you like better. Oh, Jason suggests. All right, he's trying to figure out what to do with his belly. I mean his navel. Try to make some beef bacon. That might work. You're not going to get rid of that gristle. It's going to be there, but you can probably eat around it. Give it a try. Let me know. Keep in touch. Barbecue Mike G. Is mesquite wood undesirable for smoking? Some say it gives the taste of jet fuel. No. Mesquite is a really popular wood for smoking, particularly in Texas. The issue there is it's a very strong tasting wood. And it can taste too strong if you don't get a clean burn. And it depends on what you're smoking with. Now, if you're smoking with a gas grill and you're putting wood chips or something like that, or a pellet smoker, the results are going to be different than if you're cooking with logs. So I'd need to know what device you're cooking on. But cooking with mesquite logs, you've got to get a really clean burn to get a good flavor out of it. It's still a very strong smoke. Mesquite pellets, you don't have to worry. They're going to burn clean no matter what you do. Mesquite chunks, on a gas grill or a charcoal grill, make sure that they catch on fire and burn, not smolder. Wow, Mike Hahn says the Thermapen MK4 is $69 closeout. That was $100 just a week or two ago. It's a heck of a good machine. It takes 4 seconds, I think, to give you a precise reading. The Thermapen 1. So there you go. $35 difference for a 3-second savings. You decide. Hey, you can get their Thermopop, which is about 5 or 6 seconds to give you a precise read, and it costs only $30. So the faster it is, the more expensive it is. Jim Cheshire says one takeaway from Meathead book was to cook to temp. Yeah, I mean that's all there is. He says his 20-year-old son won't take your advice. Well, he's 20 years old, dude. He's not listening to you. I didn't listen to my dad when I was 20. It's really basic stuff. Everybody here knows that temperature, cooking's all about temperature. That's all. I mean, it's the essential aspect of making good food. Thermometers are the most important thing. If he wants to, I don't need a thermometer, good for him. After he ruins a bunch of really good steaks and is embarrassed in front of his company, he'll come around. Narcio Nick again, grilling and green beans. You obviously just can't throw green beans on the grill grates because they're going to commit suicide and jump through. But if you've got a gadget called the grill grates, there's a particular brand of grill grates called grill grates. One word, grill grate. It won't allow them to fall through, and they're really good. And you can grill them. The problem with, green beans and potatoes have a similar problem. You can grill them, but it doesn't almost always cook them through. You grill the green beans, you get a beautiful blister. They're bright green. You season them, and you bring them in, and they're still a little raw in the center. It takes time. They're kind of woody. We cooked some last night indoors, and what I did was I did what is this is a technique that you might want to listen to because it's the Chinese pot sticker technique. You put a little oil in the pan, and then you put a little water in the pan, and then you put the green beans in. And this is very similar to the technique I was describing with the pan underneath the rotisserie earlier. You put the green beans in, and you turn the heat on. And they cook through in the water because water is a really good conductor of temperature, so is the oil. And that cooks them through, and the water evaporates, and then just a little bit of oil on the bottom, that's all you want. Then they fry and blister in the oil. So it's a two-step process, like it might be reverse sear in cooking a steak. You're cooking the interior with the little bit of water, and then you're cooking the exterior with a little bit of oil. And I call it the pot sticker method because that's how they do pot stickers in a Chinese restaurant often, is they'll get a pan, and they'll make these little pot stickers, the little dumplings, and they'll put them in a pan with some oil and then some water, and often they'll put the lid on so they steam, take the lid off, the water boils off, and then they fry, and then they're fried on the bottom and steamed on the top. And it's a technique that works for a lot of things. I mentioned earlier that you do that with a rotisserie chicken. You can put vegetables in a pan underneath with a little oil and a little water, and they steam in the water, and the water boils off, and then they fry with the drippings from the chicken too. So you might try that with your beans. I don't know that that's a good technique for on the grill. You might steam the beans first and then grill them to finish them. Green beans we're speaking about, not other kinds of beans. I'm reading your questions here. No, Jean Bognon. I'm giving you the French pronunciation. You're probably Jean Bognon or something, but would I consider the Masterbuilt gravity feed to be similar to the clean smoke of the BBQ? No. Charcoal is different than wood. The BBQ is a wood smoker, and it is, and it pulls the smoke through the coals, burns off all impurities. Very different technique, very different concept. It's charcoal. No, not similar. There's only one BBQ. What's my opinion? Cool J again. What's opinion about mopping pork ribs with a thin sauce in the style of Rodney Scott, for example, versus spraying with something such as vinegar? Well, when you wet something, you're going to prevent it from browning, and you're going to prevent it from getting crispy, which is okay with pork because it's kind of hard to get a really good dark brown on the surface of pork. Excuse me. So mopping also replaces evaporated water. You know, when you grill meat, you can lose 20 to 30% of the weight due to evaporation. Your steak comes out smaller than when it went in. Your pork chop comes out smaller. So mopping or spritzing, I mean, what's the difference? You put it on with a mop or a brush, or you put it on with a spray bottle. It's the same idea. You're going to keep it moist. Now, that's also going to keep the temperature down. It's going to prevent the surface of the meat from getting really hot. So if you want to brown the surface, you're going to prevent that. It's not going to get above 212 degrees. You can't brown a pork chop or a steak or anything at 212 degrees. You need massive infrared high temperature. But you're going to get nice flavor. Have I used, Ronnie Ellington, have I used Jack Daniel's charred barrel wood pellets? They're black. No, I haven't. I've seen them. The pellets, in my experience, I've cooked with pellet smokers for many years. The type of pellet doesn't really significantly influence the flavor. It tends to be in the background. I can smell the difference between apple wood and hickory wood when it's cooking, but I really can't taste the difference most of the time because you've got other stuff going on. You have the meat, you have the rub, you have the sauce, the effects of temperature, the browning of the surface, the Maillard reaction, all that stuff going on. The type of wood, and almost all pellets are not pure one kind of wood. They're typically a blend of oak, often 50% oak, and then 50% apple or cherry or whatever. And that's because oak has nice properties for even feeding. They don't break up in the pellet feeder easily, and they hold together nicely. I don't know if these Jack Daniel's pellets are mixed with pure oak, or, I mean, if they're made from oak barrels, then they maybe not needed to be, but if they're charred, I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know how it's going to affect the flavor. Yeah, it's there's more discussion here about barrel woods and different kinds of woods. It's my opinion, in general, that other than mesquite and hickory, that it's really hard to tell what wood flavor you've used. Especially, this is an orchestra of flavors. Like I said, you have the meat. Is it fresh or frozen? What cut of meat is it? How much fat is on the meat and in the meat? What is it? A hog? Is it a Berkshire hog? Is it a Duroc hog? With a breed of hogs, those all influence the flavor. Then you have salt. Salt amplifies flavor. Salt affects the protein structures and muscle. And then you have the rub. And often rubs have multiple, garlic and sugar and black pepper and onion and paprika and on and on and on and on. Those all influence the flavor. Then there is the temperature at which you cook. Then there is the amount of smoke and when the smoke is applied. Is it applied early when the meat is cold? Is it applied late when the meat is warm? Smoke sticks to cold surfaces better than warm surfaces, and it sticks to wet surfaces. So if you mopped it or sprayed it while it's cooking, then you've got the vinegar or whatever is in the mop that's affecting things. And then you've got the sauce, and so you've got this orchestra of flavors you've built here, and the variety of wood, whether it's oak, and how do you know it's really oak? I mean, when you buy that bag and it says oak, is it Appalachian oak control? I mean, there's no government inspector that checks that bag to make sure this is really oak. Does a DNA test on it? You know, when Home Depot calls the guy who sells them wood chunks or wood chips and says, I need 10,000 bags of cherry. He says, yes, sir. And he goes out into the rickyard and he says, uh-oh, I only got 5,000. That's all right. We'll throw a little oak in there. Nobody will know the difference. How do you know? Is it oak from Arkansas or is it oak from New York? Does it have bark on it, or is it air dried? Is it kiln dried? Is it shagbark hickory or pignut hickory? What is the moisture content? 25% or 50% or 10%? These are all factors. They really are. Don't worry about it. Get good quality meat. Get a good rub. Get your cooking technique down. Get control of your fire or your temperature. And stick with one kind of wood. Pick one kind of wood and use it for everything. For a whole year. And then after a year, when you've got total control of everything, and you know exactly what you're doing, then switch up the wood. One variable at a time. Just do one variable at a time. You can't switch the rub and the wood at the same time because you don't know which is affecting the flavor. So stick with one kind of good wood. I use apple wood almost entirely because it's a nice flavor and it's not real strong and it's easy for me to come by, and I just use it. And it's one instrument in the orchestra. And I'm not endorsing. I mean, you go down to Georgia and they use peach wood. You go down to Texas and they use mesquite or post oak. Most of these cooks, especially the champion cooks, they use their local wood. I mean, guys from Georgia are not buying cherry wood from Washington. I guarantee it. Really, Jim Cheshire is saying he's had a ThermoWorks signal and he loves it, but he's had 3 sensors crap out. You mean probes? Wow, I've not heard that before. Their customer service is pretty good though. There's a new one that just came out. Fred's asking for a wireless thermometer. It depends on what you want to spend. I mean, the Fireboard is like the Na Plus Ultra right now. ThermoWorks Smoke is another good one. This just came out. This is the from Slow and Sear. It takes 4 probes. It's got a remote. So this goes, it's got a magnet on the back and a little stand. And you stick your 4 probes into the meat or the oven or both. And then this one you can clip to your belt and wander around and come inside and watch the football game. There's a number of them. We have thermometer reviews. So just go to AmazingRibs.com, go to the thermometer review section, select the remote thermometers, and pick one of our platinum medal winners. And we link to where to buy it. We don't sell any of them. Nathan points out alder is pretty distinct. Yes, you're right. Justin Westrup says, beer can chicken's a religion. Boy, is it ever. He posted my article debunking it, and people lost their minds. Yeah, I have been called names. I mean, you're an effing idiot. You don't know what the F you're talking about. Where did you learn to grill? I mean, I'm not going to get into the details here. But beer can chicken does not work the way you think it does. It's a pretty simple principle. The beer just never gets hot enough to boil. That chicken is a koozie. It's an insulator. It comes out of the refrigerator at 38 degrees or so. You wrap it around and you cook that chicken up to 160, 170 degrees. Well, the beer's not going to get hotter than 160 and 170. And in fact, when we tested it, rarely got above 150. So it's not going to steam. And even if it did, where's it going to go? There's a metal can. It's not going into the meat. It's going to go up into the shoulders, and it's going to coat the surface of the shoulders and go back into the can. It can't penetrate the meat. There's just no way it can penetrate the meat. The meat is impervious. You can soak the meat in beer and it's not going in. And it certainly, if it hits the shoulder, it's not getting down into the legs and the breasts. It just isn't doing that. It just isn't doing that. And then often fat gets into the can and lays on top of the beer and prevents the beer from boiling, even if it could boil. So, I mean, it just doesn't. I've written about this at length. People don't believe it. They just don't believe it. I am not going to make any comments about people who deny science. Mike Slayton, he says he has 2 pit barrel cookers and loves them. Yeah, people who have pit barrel cookers love them. They're like $300-400 a pop, and they just cook, and they cook beautifully. There are some competitors out there now that are also good. Ron Bedford's talking about the differences between Big Bob Gibson's Alabama white sauce and Cornell chicken. There are 2 preparations for chicken that work pretty well. Big Bob Gibson's white sauce is usually applied like a sauce. I mean, when the chicken is cooked, it's dunked in this sauce, which is kind of like a ranch and a mayo. It's really nice, and it works nicely with chicken. The Cornell chicken starts out in there's egg in there, and it's sort of almost like a mayonnaise, and it marinates in it. It doesn't penetrate far, and it's also got a lot of vinegar in it. So they're different. They're fun. I like them both, but they're pretty different. I like them both. You can try them both. Yeah, Jean is talking about his Hasty Bake. I've got the newest, coolest, keenest 357, which it's really expensive, but oh my. If you're looking for a good charcoal grill, you will not find a better one than Hasty Bakes. Now, they have a whole lineup of them, but the cool thing about them is they have a big square cooking surface, so you can really set up in 2 zones easily. And the charcoal bed is on a crank that you can raise and lower it. So you can drop it down low for low and slow and for smoking. And then if you want to sear, you crank it all the way up, and the meat is right on top of the charcoal for searing. It's really well built, really well designed. Gary Hammond says for wireless probes, he loves his Meter. Meter has just been purchased by Traeger. I don't know who's going to be handling their customer service, because we like the Meter also, but we hate their customer service. We had some real issues with their Kickstarter. I was one of the very first to buy in on their Kickstarter, and I was one of the very last to get the product, because I ordered the top-of-the-line product, and they were having difficulties with it, and they weren't telling us. They weren't communicating. They weren't telling people where the product was in the development stages. I wrote to them, didn't get answers. So I am highly suspicious of their customer service. But now that Traeger is taking them over, maybe things will get better. But I have the meter right there, and I also have a very nice competitor. What the heck is it called again? TapaQ. TapaQ has got a wireless probe, and boy, that is a very sophisticated device. TapaQ. If you want a wireless probe, so you stick it in your rotisserie chicken, and their chicken can rotate, and there's no wire to get wrapped around the rotisserie. There's I think 3 of them on the market now. The Meter, Meater, TapaQ, and I think there's a third one. I forget its name, but we have reviews of all of them. Barbecue Mike says Lodge has a new 12-inch skillet with holes in the bottom, and they call it a grilling basket. Would that be better to sear steaks on a Weber kettle than a regular cast iron pan? Well, on a Weber kettle, all right, we've talked about this, but it bears repeating. There's different kinds of energy in a grill and a smoker. And it's useful to think of it as energy rather than heat. Let me get them in a good order for you. There is conduction energy, which is when the meat is sitting on top of the grates. Because the grates are metal, they heat up, and they conduct energy, and they store energy very efficiently. And so when you turn the steak over, you have grill marks. So that's conduction energy. There's convection energy. That's just airflow. So if you've got the steak sitting on the grate, the top of the steak is cooking, but it's cooking by warm air. And that's much less efficient. And then there's radiant energy and infrared radiant energy. And that's the energy that comes from the glowing coals or the flame. Think of going outdoors on a hot sunny day. That sun beating down on the back of your neck is mostly infrared. We think of ultraviolet, which is what gives you a tan, but it's mostly infrared energy, similar to what you get from hot coals or a flame. Step into the shade, and you're not getting infrared energy anymore. It's still hot out there. There's warm air surrounding you, convection airflow, but it's not the infrared. It's not radiant energy. Now, the other example I give is go to your oven, turn your oven on, set it for 200 degrees or so, and then after it hits 200, put your arm in there. You can do this. Your hair's not going to catch on fire. You can actually hold your arm in there maybe for a minute or two. Warm air. You can handle 200 degrees. I mean, you don't want to walk around in 200 degree air for very long, but you can do that. Now, touch the side of the oven. When you get back from the hospital, you're going to understand that 200 degree metal is different than 200 degree air. So everything that's 200 degrees is not the same. And that's why people who talk about, well, my pellet grill gets up to 600 degrees. Well, that's air temperature. You can't sear a steak in a 600 degree oven. You need infrared energy to sear a steak. You need glowing coals or flame. You've got to be over that infrared energy to get a sear, to get that brown, to get that Maillard reaction. Warm air is just not going to cut it. Okay, so Weber kettle, great little machine. You can pile the charcoal up, and you're going to get massive amounts of infrared energy, and you can sear a steak beautifully. Now, hot metal will sear it better. So you could take a cast iron pan, put it in your Weber kettle, and you'll get a better sear. Now, you're not going to get the flavor of the smoke from the metal pan. But a metal pan, a cast iron metal pan with holes in it, I'm not sure I understand why. I mean, I'm not sure what the purpose is. I mean, the holes are going to drain the juices out. Well, I don't know if I want to do that. I may want to keep those juices. I might want to keep that fat. It will sear it, but you can sear it just fine over the infrared from the hot coals. So I'm not sure I see it. I'm not sure I see why. I could now, if we're doing green beans, I can see it. You throw the green beans in there, you're going to get hot metal on the green beans, and you're going to get blistering on the green beans, and they're going to cook. But you're not going to be able to throw water in there. Not sure I would find a lot of use for that. Eric Kennedy, what's your thoughts on smash burgers? Now you use your cast iron pan, or your Lodge cast iron griddle. When you go to sear a burger, you can sear it over the flame, or you can sear it in a cast iron surface. A quarter-pound burger is going to cook pretty fast. So I will cook a quarter-pound burger in a cast iron pan or a griddle on my grill, or I'll do it on my grill, because if I do it indoors, it's just going to spatter all over the stovetop, fill up the house with grease smell, and I'll be sleeping on the couch. But on a grill, smash burgers or quarter pounders, way to go. Now, if I'm doing an 8-ounce steak burger, I'm going to do it over open flame, because I'm going to get a great sear, but I'm also going to get the effect of the flame. And something else happens. The fats and the oil and the water, the juices with the flavor of the seasoning, drip into those coals. And when they hit those coals, they flare and they vaporize and they go back onto the meat and they give you flavor. So if I have an 8-ounce burger or a 6-ounce burger, I'm going to do it over coal. If I have a quarter pounder, I'm going to do it on a cast iron pan. Thickness is a key factor in just about everything you're cooking. How thick is your steak will tell you what method you use to cook it. If you've got a skirt steak, you've got to cook it hot and fast in order to get the exterior dark before the interior is overcooked. But if you've got a 2-inch ribeye, you've got to reverse sear it. You warm it gently, slowly, until it's the right temperature inside. Then you sear it at the end. Okay. If money were no object, what pellet smoker would I want? I can't answer that, Daniel. Max, our grill tester, will know better. He is on top of whatever. I can't keep up with. There's a new one every day. And it's got feature number 1, but it doesn't have feature number 2. But the other one's got feature number 2, but not feature number 1. I'm using, right now, I have a Mac 2-star. And I have had a Mac 2-star for 10 years or more. I've had a couple of different iterations of it. I love it. It works great. It's got huge cooking space. It's got a number of shells. I did 10 slabs of ribs for the 4th of July in my Mac 2-star. Yowza. It's also got a side for cold smoking. It's got really good digital controllers. It uses K-probes, which are the best thermocouples. So I'm very happy with my Mac 2-star. It ain't cheap. It's built in the United States, not Japan or China. It's welded, bent, really seriously welded, powder coated. I mean, it's going to outlive me. Yeah, John is pointing out that he's watching his food cook using a meter thermometer, and that the last 10 degrees moves in a hurry. Well, that's true. It's like sex. It moves faster towards the end. That's because the meat is hotter. And, all right, so you got a piece of meat. You put it on a grill. Let's say a steak. The hot air cooks the outside of the meat. But the hot air can't get into the meat. It can't penetrate the meat. The hot air isn't cooking the inside of the meat. What's cooking the inside of the meat? The outside of the meat. The outside of the meat gathers the energy from the hot air, also from the grates, conduction, or from the flames, infrared, and it builds up in the exterior. It's like a capacitor. And the exterior stores that energy. And that storage battery pushes the energy slowly towards the center. And it moves slowly because the meat's 75% water, and water is a great insulator. So it takes time to cook the interior of that meat. But as the interior of the meat heats up, it cooks itself. So it cooks faster. So a cold piece of meat is going to move more slowly. It's going to take longer for the interior of a cold piece of meat to go 10 degrees than for the interior of the meat that's almost done to go the final 10 degrees. So it'll move faster. And I've been caught by that many times. The old pro here knows what he's doing, and many times I've turned my back to go inside to get something or whatever and come back out, and for crying out loud, just a few minutes ago it was 10 degrees below my target, and now it's 10 degrees above. You just gotta, when it's getting close, you better stand by your grill. Stand by your grill. Sorry, I won't sing ever again. Narcio Nick, when I butcher a whole tenderloin, and I think you're referring to a beef tenderloin, what do you do with the chain? The chain is a little strip of meat that just kind of hanging on the end. I take it off, I chop it up, and I use it for stew meat, or I grind it for burgers. But I take it off. And actually, I have a video of me. If you go to beef roast on AmazingRibs.com, I have a video of me how I butcher a tenderloin. And I do a couple of interesting things. Different. Curtis Mattingly, looking for an affordable set of knives for traveling, camping, fishing, cabin. I've got the answer for you. Rapala filleting knives. I love my Rapalas. And if you're a fisherman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Rapalas are lightweight, very thin blades, wicked sharp filleting knives. The blade is flexible, really sharp tip, and they're primarily a filleting blade. You can you get a side of salmon and lay it down, and you can just scrape along that skin and remove the fish from the skin in a second with a Rapala blade. You can slit open the gut and fillet a fish with a Rapala easily. But I love it for doing things like breaking down a tenderloin, a beef tenderloin. It's just wicked sharp. It cuts through anything. And if after a year or so it starts to wear down, they're like $20. They come they come either in a plastic sheath or a leather sheath, and you can get them in different lengths: 9-inch, 6-inch. Get one of each. And if it wears down, or if you lose it, it falls overboard, the heck with it. You're not losing a Messermeister $100 chef's knife. Oh, there goes my camera. Wow. I have this cool little camera that's supposed to follow me. Yoo-hoo! Hey, you. Over here. I'm your master. My devices are all smarter than me. My dogs are all smarter than me. My spouse is smarter than me. My employees are all... Well, it's good when your employees are smarter than you. So, you see? You asked the question, you knew the answer. He says, I already have a Rapala. Yeah, they're just great. And Jim Tortorelli, I use Rapala to take back straps off a deer. Yeah, it's just a great all-purpose El Cheapo knife, and if you lose it, who cares? If it gets dull, you can sharpen them, but you can also chuck them and get a new one. I love them. I keep one in my drawer. I have Gunther Wilhelm German knives, and I have Messerschmitt. I got a bunch of knives. And I find I'm often reaching for my Rapalas. Well, guys, it's 9:15. I typically try to go for an hour. We've gone an hour and 45 minutes. So I think, and I've hit the bottom of the question list. I think I got most of you. I may have missed a question or two, but good chance it's on AmazingRibs.com or in one of the books I've written. And if you have further questions, just go to AmazingRibs.com, and every page on the website has a place to ask questions at the bottom. Don't ask me questions on Facebook and Twitter. I don't have time to prop up Zuckerberg's website. Come to my website, ask my question. Not only me, but my team is there, and they disagree with me willingly, often. So come to my site and ask a question there, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Always fun to talk to you guys. Great conversation tonight. Fewer questions than interaction, comments, suggestions, ideas than usual. I really look forward to doing this once a month. This is every month, the final Thursday of the month, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. If you haven't heard about yet, our meetup in Memphis is now in March. We had to push it back from August because of COVID. It should be a great deal of fun. If you're not aware of this event, go to the website and AmazingRibs.com, Memphis. Come join us in Memphis for a weekend of great food and education and a lot of fun and partying. If you haven't heard about our Pitmaster Club, take a free 30-day trial. There's going to be the first price increase in 7 years on September 1st. It's $23.95 for membership right now, and we will guarantee that price for the foreseeable future. I'm not going to say forever, but it is my intent to not raise that price for everybody or anybody if they sign up before September 1st. After September 1st, it's $34.95, so you'll save yourself $10. Sign up for our newsletter, Smoke Signals, and we'll keep you posted about new articles, new recipes, and stuff. If you haven't bought the book, Meathead, 250,000 copies. That's like the second best-selling barbecue book ever. Number one, I think, is probably the Barbecue Bible by Stephen Reichlin. And these $3.99 deep dives on Amazon Kindle, they're really good. They have everything we can think of about ribs and chicken and so on. And like I said, if you have questions, come on down. So that's it for tonight. I'm going to knock off my glass of wine, raise a toast to you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I'll be back here again last Thursday of next month. See you then, everybody.
That's all for now, folks. Thanks for staying awake, and please visit AmazingRibs.com for the articles, recipes, and reviews mentioned in this chat with the Barbecue Whisperer and Hedonism Evangelist from AmazingRibs.com, the planet's biggest and baddest barbecue and grilling website, Meathead.
It's a game of time and time. You can hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. Just trust in the Lone